everyone, and welcome back to Fika for Life.
Yay!
Another episode with Lin Nguyen and
Edward Thomas.
yes, and today we have a really universal topic, don't we?
Yes, it's about the white rabbit candy.
Well, yes, it's what we're eating right now. It's our Fika for today, white rabbit candy.
Yes.
It's from China.
Because our producer has a thing for Chinese candies.
Yeah.
And
Like
so-
candies.
Yeah, he likes the Chinese sweets. Mm.
So we're eating them and the pirate cookies. And yeah,
Aye, matey.
but the topic for today is what is the meaning of life
Yes.
and how to find it.
Wow,
You old, so you got to figure it out.
I know.
Like, what's the meaning of life?
Because life sucks. The meaning is life sucks. But some people's lives suck more than other people's lives.
That's true, though.
No, actually it is. But okay, so besides the sucking of life, sometimes the life gets sucked out of you. And so I don't know what to say. It sort of depends upon your perspective. So every worldview tells you that this is the meaning for life. But as a believer, as Christians have this view that the meaning of life is God. Mm-hmm. Bible says that we're made. So in Colossians, I think it's chapter 16.
That's a book in the Bible.
Colossians chapter 1, verse 16. It's a book in the Bible, in the New Testament. And it says that Jesus made everything, and everything was made by him and for him. And if everything was made for him, then the meaning of life is him.
That was too high for me.
Was that too high?
But
Okay. He says,
if you
I'm
put
the
it-
way, the truth, and the life. Therefore, he's the meaning of life.
Okay, I get it now. And
Jesus
what
put
about
himself in
what
the
about if people would say, "Well, I don't believe in that crap."
Oh,
So,
well.
what is the meaning of life for them?
Well, see, that's the whole thing. If there's a true meaning for life, then it has to be the same for every person. And some people would reject that, say, but everyone's different. Not that different. We all breathe oxygen. It's not like some of us breathe carbon dioxide and others of us breathe carbon monoxide and others of us breathe hydrogen sulfide.
Oh, wow.
I'm like getting all into the poisons now. And some of us just breathe
Nothing.
chlorine gas. I like to see those people. They're all
Or glue.
green.
They breathe glue.
Oh, glue. You can breathe that too, but it does mess up your brain. So I think that's one of the things is that if there's a true meaning to life, it has to be universal so that it applies to everyone. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, then it has nothing to do with whether you believe it or not. The meaning of life is the meaning of life. But if you choose not to believe that that's the meaning of life, then you won't find the meaning of life.
Wow, there was a lot meaning of life.
I know. I just repeated myself 4 times. But can you find the truth in that? As we eat the white rabbit candy, you have to go down the rabbit hole with us.
So, I think like living life, you should somehow see like what are not the meaning of life, or what are the things that don't give meaning to life. Don't you think so?
No, because I think that like life doesn't just happen. I think there's an intentionality. So in order for us to experience the meaning of life, we actually have to want to know the meaning of life. Like there's a lot of things that happen. So if you're thinking about wanting to have a life that's filled with peace, it just won't happen by itself. Okay, if you go to the desert or the mountains,
Live by yourself.
live by yourself with no interaction with anything else on the planet, I think you'll just feel alone. But I don't think that you'll necessarily find the meaning of life, because the meaning of life is something that affects the life that you live. It's something that when you find the meaning of life, you start to come into this place of satisfaction.
But isn't that what like
Harmony?
Buddhism?
Nah,
being like, oh,
because
you do
Buddhism is
this
trying to
and
get you to meditate so that you can transcend, get above everything so that you can dissolve into nirvana, into the big nothing. Like you cease to exist as your individual self and you just become part of the universal. And that seems like annihilation. It's just another variation of annihilation.
Oh, have you seen this movie? Like,
Which one?
oh, it's on Netflix. It's like this annihilation. Yeah, it's called like that. With what's her name? That lady who also played in the other. Anyway, in Black Swan. What's her name?
Oh, I didn't see Black Swan.
Oh, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get to it later. Natalie Portman.
Oh,
Sorry.
really? Oh, she's really good. I like her.
Yeah. So there was also like in the end they all dissolve into this mesh of
See?
universe. So no one
Not-
wants to be. That's not the meaning of life. To be
No.
sucked into the
That doesn't
universe.
seem like a goal. You know, it seems like, wow, the meaning of life is just for me to sort of dissolve into my small bits and
bits.
pieces and become one with the universe. Okay, wow. The great dissolve.
But how
Nope.
come some people like want to know the meaning of life, and some people like, nah, I don't care, or it's not so important to have a meaning?
Well,
Because I had a Japanese friend, and he was like, I was saying, well, but don't you want to know like the meaning of life? He's like, no, why does it matter? Wow. Like he was
gosh.
totally
a
uninterested
total nihilist. Okay.
yeah, he was like, yeah, so what if you just dissolve? So what?
But isn't that sort of like giving up? It's sort of like, okay, so I accept that life has no meaning, and the meaning of life is to become no meaning myself, to dissolve into nothing, dissolve into the universe. And I don't care about that. I don't care if I disappear. My
Yeah.
uniqueness just sort of dissolves away, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that like a quitter?
Well, I don't know. I
Okay.
just think when I heard it, I was like, I couldn't really cope with it in the sense of like I couldn't understand it. Like, why wouldn't you care? Like, it's not about like, oh, I find myself so important, so I obviously want to exist. But it's more like, but why would
But
you
are important.
not
then.
care to not exist?
Well, I think so. I think that people who haven't discovered true happiness might not believe that they can be happy.
Ah,
People who haven't discovered. So if you haven't come close to the meaning of life, then you probably
don't know what you're missing.
Exactly. So you're saying you don't
Dun, dun,
care
dun.
about something, but you're saying you don't care about something that you don't know about.
which is like, yeah,
It's like,
you can't crave it if you haven't tasted.
yeah, exactly. Dim sum is really good. But if you've never tried dim sum, you can always say, oh, it doesn't matter if I try dim sum. Oh, I don't care.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not missing anything.
Oh yeah, you do.
Because you're saying no to something you have no reference point, no experience of. You're saying no to something that you have no reason really to say no to.
What if people think that they know the meaning of life and they're like, nah, I don't like it.
Well, it depends on what they decided the meaning of life is. So the meaning of life can never be a substance. It can never be things like drugs or getting high. It can't be sex because those things can never satisfy you. So there's no ultimate sex that will.
But maybe people do try to achieve it though.
Well, I like to achieve it every day, at least 3 times a day,
Wow.
maybe more. You know, but there's no ultimate sex that becomes so ultimate in and of itself that you never want to have sex again. Like I'm finally sexually satisfied.
You mean like that?
So if I finally get to that major, awesome orgasm that is beyond orgasm, where all of a sudden it's like, now my sex drive is totally satisfied. I'll never hunger after it again. The ultimate hamburger, where you eat the hamburger and as you get to the last bite, you're like, oh, it is finished. It is done. And someone says, you want a hamburger? Nope. I'm hamburger satisfied.
But this sounds strange though. Can you ever be like that satisfied with life?
Sure.
That sounds really weird.
Once you get to the meaning of life, you become satisfied with life.
How does it feel to be satisfied with life?
I know, you have to ask my son. He has Down syndrome. And he says,
He's satisfied
yeah,
with
because
life.
I think that sometimes certain people with Down syndrome have achieved the meaning of life
In what sense?
because there's nothing lacking. Like there's nothing new. So when I asked him, oh, how are you feeling? Fine. I'm like, you want anything? No. I got my job. I got my girlfriend. I got my apartment. You know, I've got my TV games. I have my telephone. Nah. He's like, I'm totally satisfied. Said in Swedish, jag är nöjd. And I was like, oh my gosh. Here is my son, you know, he has Down syndrome, and you think like, oh, there's so many
Poor
things he's
him,
missing out.
blah.
And he's like so satisfied with where he's at right now in life that he actually is not missing anything.
But I could imagine people having that too.
He has it every day, all the time.
So they have found meaning of life? Or they just have found satisfaction with life?
Well, I think the meaning, I believe the meaning of life brings satisfaction. And what happens is, I think it comes from being totally okay with me. Doesn't mean I'm a perfect person. It just means when I'm not like, I don't need to add anything to me. So because if you have the meaning of life, there is no commercial on TV that says, but if you put on this makeup, if you go down this much weight, if you have these clothes, if you have this car, those things that it's like there's no hook. It's no more. It's not a bait anymore. That sort of puts the hook
There's
in your
not
mouth and fishes you in.
another upgrade.
Yeah, because everything that we think that can satisfy us. So you get high. I was just about to say. So when I get high, but if you get high, you come down off the high.
Yeah, at some point you will.
It doesn't satisfy you, and you got to go back and get high again. I got to get more, and I get something stronger, whatever.
Then you die.
So sex, drugs, rock and roll can't satisfy you either. It's fun for a while, but then I got to get it here. It's not like I hear the same song over and over again.
No, but it's the lifestyle.
Yeah, but if that was the ultimate rock song, will satisfy me, and I will never hunger for more rock songs.
But it sounds so crazy that you would have something, or you would come to the point, or maybe I'm so far away, so
Yeah,
I can't
you
really
are.
feel.
I can see your aura right now.
Like you,
Padawan.
how can you not ever want anything in life anymore? I mean,
No, not that you don't.
what about
want
my
anything.
husband? He's like, do you want anything in life? No. Do you think
Okay.
he's
No,
satisfied in
No,
life?
he's not satisfied. He's unwilling to stretch himself.
So laziness could be
Well,
satisfied with
no,
life.
but see, that's the whole thing. That there's a level of giving up, because in order to get close to the meaning of life, it takes discipline, it takes will, you have to do the thing that brings you there, walk the distance, ride the bike, whatever it is. It doesn't just happen on its own. Just like, I'm just going to sit here on a rock. The meaning of life. And so I think for some people whom don't understand their unique value, they don't understand that they're creative is so much more than what they do. Because if you believe that, then what happens is you would want to achieve more, because you knew that there was something already placed inside of you, that like, there's so much more there. So, and so that's just because a person says, "Oh, no, I don't care. Oh, I don't know," doesn't mean that they've come to because it's not because he's satisfied. It would be different if he said, No, I'm really satisfied. This is where I want my life to be. I don't want to make any changes. I finally arrived. That's different than.
But that status, can that ever be like status quo? Because life is changing all the time.
Well, okay. So here's this theological take on it.
Isn't it?
The Bible tells us that there is a place in time where God becomes the center of life. So much so
the
that
center of life.
Yeah, the center.
I thought you said sinner of life. Like,
He becomes the center
No.
of life. No, so I have to be a little more British, and so I'll say the center of life. God becomes the center of life, and because of that, then I just can't do that. I just can't be serious and talk like
you
that.
sound like Bellatrix Lestrange.
Well, you know.
Anyway.
It wasn't that pasta. But anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. What was I saying?
You were saying that
You forgot.
no, you were saying that you wanted to do the theological spin on it because I said you can keep that status quo where you are like always totally satisfied with your life.
So God becomes the center of our total existence reality. And all of a sudden he starts to wipe away every tear from our eyes. And we're eating from the tree of life. And
running around naked.
The hill, like everything's
looking perfect every day.
Like everything is like the way it was actually really intended to be from the very beginning. And you're kind of like, no, but what is that? Like some people would think, oh my gosh, that's so boring. Like if
we want drama.
Yeah, because the thing is that we haven't really gotten close enough.
Yeah,
to
we don't know.
We don't even know. Like we don't even know what it is that we don't have.
Yeah, we just imagine something would be really boring.
Right, and having the meaning of life isn't the absence of life. It is the actual living life in its total fullness and abundance. It's actually enjoying every single day of life in the things, it's smelling actually every flower, and seeing the significance of every single flower and every single insect and every single person's existence, because it is a state of reality that's so far from it's the lack of worry, it's the lack of anxiety, it's the lack of performance anxiety, it's the lack of stress in the
Sorrow,
sense of
suffering.
Like you know, but having like the meaning of life, you can still go through hard things,
Mm-hmm.
but those hard things don't define you. You never say, "Oh, why me?" Or you're like you don't let the problem define you, because and that level of satisfaction, that level of understanding who I am, my place in the universe, my place where God has me. Like you can go through the crazy hardest things and still come out on the other side without being bitter or giving up hope. Or
There
losing
are
heart.
people like that.
Yeah. And so there are people that can sort of bounce through
Life.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, you said that there is a place where you will have just total fullness of life, like
That's-
forever, where
After the
it's just
afterlife.
status quo. But the thing is, I was thinking when you said that, we screwed it up once before. What keeps us from screwing up the second time?
Wow. There you go. That's the problem. You have to get people out of the equation. Long live the planet. Death to humans. Maybe we should take that out. What do you think? Nope. Our producer says, nope, leave it in.
Leave it in.
Oh my gosh, he's so hard. Well, I think the difference is that, so this is a Christian philosophical position. Oh, I don't want to stick it in my mouth. It sounds so weird if it's touching my lips. Okay. It's the microphone we're talking about.
I'm trying to put it
She's-
into his mouth.
She's trying to make me speak into the microphone so my voice is heard.
Go.
Okay, so there's this Christian philosophical perspective that says that the difference in the future, in the world to come, will be because I become transformed. There was an actual physiological, psychological, emotional transformation that takes place that transforms me. That is, and to put into other types of terms, it is a total transcendence into a me that is the way I was supposed to be me. And that's what God does. That's what he does in that transformation, the new life, the new body.
So
and
you're
that-
saying that we won't do the same thing again?
No, we will not. Because
Why
in
didn't
that,
he made us like that before?
Yeah, we'll be back to the place of, but we'll be back to the place of sinlessness and perfection. The difference is the tree of life.
There won't be a tree of life.
No, there will be a tree of life, because the tree of life seals you. So the reason that there's another theological thing.
Yeah. Oh,
Adam
I
and
get
Eve
it
are kicked out of the
now.
garden. They can't eat the tree of life because the tree of life seals you as you are, and so they could never be redeemed if they ate from the tree of life. But once God takes away, removes every sin from you, and you eat from the tree of life, you're sealed.
So why weren't they sealed before again? Why weren't they sealed before
Because
again?
they didn't eat from the tree of life.
Why? Because they weren't.
No, so there's
Why
two.
didn't they?
See, that's the whole thing. So God says, the Bible says that in the midst of the garden was the tree of life. And the tree of life doesn't show up again until the last. So the first and the last book of the Bible are connected together by a type of wide chiasma through the tree of life. The tree of life is in the beginning and in the end.
It sounds like a fantasy book. Yeah. Anyway.
And so in the tree of life, Adam and Eve, this is for those of you who don't know the Bible, read the first book of the Bible, Genesis. But in this book, Adam and Eve were created totally perfect without sin. They were given God's instructions.
They were so
rebelled against
close.
Him. They were close. They were already there,
They had the meaning of
but
life.
they walked away from it, and they decided to
Dumb
look somewhere
bums.
else. And they decided the meaning of life was something other than with God,
Ooh,
and that
screwed it all
made
up.
them lose the meaning of life. And so the Bible says that what God does, he says that he will push them out of the garden, and he put a cherubim, a type of protecting warrior angel with a flaming sword to protect the way to the tree of life so they would never eat it. That was God's plan, is to prevent them from eating from the tree of life.
Because they wanted to choose their own.
But in the
meaning.
end of the Bible, the book of Revelations, the last book of the Bible, then what happens is it says the tree of life is there for the healing of the nations. And so, and it produces fruit all year round. And so there's just, the tree of life shows up, but this time you're eating from the tree of life.
Uh-huh.
That's the difference.
Why? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I know. I'm
okay.
just being,
So the
So,
meaning. So
yeah.
the meaning of life ultimately is to get there.
no, the meaning of life is, I would say the meaning of life is God.
Okay.
It is a life totally immersed in God. It's a life totally surrounded by God. It's a life led by God. It's like God becomes the biggest denominator in everything. So the reason I act the way I do and treat people the way I treat them, help people who I help, say no to things, would all have its meaning and its foundation in God.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's hard for us to imagine that. I mean, that everything in your life, this is really hard for people to take in, that everything in your life should be seasoned with God.
If you give an example, like what's the difference with people who see having a close relationship with God, living with God, compared to people who are not? I mean, from the outside, shouldn't it look the same?
No.
No.
There are similarities. So I could pray to God, or not to. And now you have two people who are decide they're going to pray to God. But it's not just the prayer; it's what motivates the prayer. It's why do you do it? So if I pray to God in order to get things out of Him, then my prayer is not really about communicating with Him or being in His presence. It's about what I can get out of Him, and so it's a selfish prayer. Whereas on the other hand, if it's just because to experience God and to be in His presence, that's the motivation. If I get something out of it, I just get something out of it. But if I don't, like, my attitude towards Him is never affected by what I get or don't get, because it's not based on that.
So how do you know if you're on the right path?
Well,
Fella.
if God is the meaning of life, then the right path would have to be through Jesus.
Okay.
And so it has to do with, again, what kind of a decision do you want to make about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ? Do you believe He really is the Son of God, the Messiah? Do you really believe He died on the cross for your sins? Do you really believe that now He is the most clearest representation of who God is, what God is like, and what kind of life He wants us to live? And I'm willing to follow Him. I'm willing to walk in that. Ooh.
But so that's the meaning of life.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be people out there who are going to argue with us and disagree. Yeah. Totally okay if you want to disagree, but the meaning of life.
But you said the meaning of life has to be universal. It can't be...
That's why Jesus died on the cross for everyone.
It can't be for some people, oh, it's money. Oh, it's eternal happiness. Oh, it's children. Oh, it's your partner. Oh, it's work.
Those things can become a fake Messiah or a fake offering of that satisfaction in life, of meaning in life. But they're things, they're a result. They're not the cause.
You will always need more of it.
Exactly.
There is no end to it.
There is never enough money in the world.
True.
So, so that's what I'm saying the meaning of life is. You may not agree with us, or you might agree with us. That's great. That's your decision. But I would encourage you that if you really want to find out if this is the meaning of life, you sort of have to immerse yourself into it.
Yeah.
So find a place that really, really believes, that really teaches. Come to Uppsala, Sweden, because here is the place you'll find us, and then of course we'll lead you. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean really, come to Uppsala. You can come to Uppsala.
Honestly, you can come to us.
But you need to find people who have already been there, who are already there on the journey, and then you join their journey, and then becomes your journey, and you get close. And the closer you get, the more clearly you can see that.
Yeah.
So it's not something you can read about. It's something you have to experience and jump with your feet in. But you jump into the shallow end.
Yeah.
And as you start to learn to swim in the wave and stuff, you can go to the deeper and deeper water.
Ooh. That was deep, Ed. The meaning of life, then.
Well, hey, I hope that you find the meaning of life.
Yeah, I hope you too.
Really? Thanks. I hope so, me too. And I hope our producer finds the meaning of life.
Thumb up.
Yes. He's really good at the Facebook emoticons. He puts a face up, a happy face up, a sad face down. I mean, wow, it's amazing.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yes.
And hope you guys find the meaning of life. And check in next time. Write to us.
At Fika for Life.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Lin Nguyen and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.